Tonight, the first Senate vote on a key piece of the Biden agenda has now been set for Saturday. Democrats are pushing ahead with efforts to pass the climate, health care, and economic package, even as they're still trying to lock up the crucial support of one of their own, Senator Kyrsten Sinema. Republicans, meantime, say they're challenging every piece of the legislation they can. And joining us now, Senator Rick Scott of Florida. He's the chairman of the National Republican Senatorial Committee. Senator, thank you so much for joining us. As you know, Democrats could soon be poised to pass their sweeping climate and economic bill. Did they beat Leader McConnell at his own game by announcing this deal only after he worked with Democrats to pass the computer chips bill?
Well, I think what happened, I think a lot of Republicans feel like they were duped by Joe Manchin. I think they felt like Joe Manchin made a commitment that he wouldn't support a bill that to raise taxes like this, and so I think a lot of people were surprised. I think this bill that they're talking about now ought to be called the War on Seniors bill, because cutting Medicare by $280 billion, raising the tax burden on people, and raising gas tax on people when gas prices are already up doesn't make any sense to me.
But how will it reflect on Mitch McConnell's leadership if the Democrats do get this big win, and it will be a big win on this bill right before the midterms in November?
Well, I think a lot of Republicans are frustrated that there's so many things that Democrats in the 50-50 Senate have gotten done, and I think in this case, I think a lot of us, were duped by Joe Manchin. I think a lot of people felt like Joe Manchin made a commitment that we wouldn't be doing a reconciliation bill that raised taxes and did all these things. And they were shocked that Joe Manchin is okay with all the Green New Deal things and actually a gas price increase on oil and gas. So I think a lot of people were surprised. A lot of Republicans would like us somehow to be able to stop this wasteful spending and just out of control federal government.
But let me just get to some of the points you're making. Republican Senator Ron Johnson on Tuesday, a colleague of yours, suggested that Social Security and Medicare be eliminated as mandatory programs. He wants them to be discretionary spending, as it's called. And you propose in your own Rescue America plan, and I'm quoting you now, that all federal legislation sunsets in 5 years. Are Social Security and Medicare on the Republican chopping block right now, as Democrats are arguing?
Absolutely not. As you know, Joe Biden, when he was in the Senate, he supported cutting Medicare. I don't support cutting Medicare. I don't support cutting and Social Security. But here's what we got to deal with. I think people around the country are surprised that everything in the budget we don't look at every year. Because right now we know Medicare is going bankrupt in 4 years, and up here there's no conversation about how do we make sure people get their Medicare benefits. They know that Social Security goes bankrupt in 12 years, and up here there's no conversation about how do we make sure people get their Social Security benefits. So from my standpoint, I think we ought to be talking about these issues and make sure that these are so important programs that we talk about every year, and we make sure people get their Medicare benefits and their Social Security benefits.
Well, let me read from what you, in your own plan, what you say about Medicare and Social Security sunsetting in 5 years, meaning it has to be renewed every 5 years. I assume that includes, when you say all federal legislation must sunset in 5 years, does that include Social Security and Medicare, two programs that are so critical to seniors, and you got a lot of seniors in your state of Florida?
Well, Medicare is clearly very important. We've got to make sure that we get those benefits. Social Security, we also, that's how we do our defense budget. We look at it every year. We don't say, oh, we're going to have the exact same program the exact same way, but we know we want to have a lethal military that can defend the freedom of this country. I also put my plan, and you can go to rescueamerica.com and look at it. I also put in there, it said, I think Congress ought to be honest with the American public. Medicare is going bankrupt. How are we going to preserve your benefits? Social Security is going bankrupt. It is going bankrupt. I mean, you don't get to say, oh, I don't care what my bank account is. If your bank account is zero, you don't get to say, oh, I'm not going to look at it and it'll all work out. No. I want to make sure these things work out. I want to make sure people get their benefits. And I think that's what Ron Johnson is saying. We want to make sure people get their benefits. What the Democrats are doing up here, and some Republicans, is they're saying we don't even have those conversations because they're tough conversations. But we can fix them.
Senator, if you're saying it has to be sunset, Medicare and Social Security every 5 years, that means it has to be renewed. You're raising the possibility it might not be renewed, and a lot of seniors are going to go without Medicare and Social Security. You understand that, right?
Wolf, I've been very clear. I will not do anything to reduce Medicare or Social Security benefits. In contrast, Joe Biden, when he was in the Senate, proposed cutting Medicare and Social Security. I've never done that, and I never will. I want to preserve these programs.
But you're opening the door. But you're opening the door to eliminating those programs if you say they have to be renewed every 5 years.
Well, Wolf, they're going bankrupt. Shouldn't we have a conversation? I mean, Wolf, if you have no money in your bank account, shouldn't you figure out how you solve the problem? I care about Medicare benefits. I care about Social Security benefits. Not having the conversation is not going to make those programs not go bankrupt. Fixing those programs now so individuals get the benefits they deserve is the way to preserve them.
It's a controversial proposal you're putting forward, as we know. Senator Rick Scott, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Wolf. Have a great day.
You too.